The Galactic Council gathered in their shining hall orbiting a dying star, the structure itself a masterpiece of alien architecture, built from crystal and gold that shimmered under the faint light of the star's fading glow. The hall stretched for miles, filled with thousands of delegates from every known civilization, reptilian generals with scales that gleamed like armor, insectoid queens surrounded by buzzing attendants, silicon-bodied thinkers glowing with inner light, and vaporous entities floating silently in containment fields, all gathered beneath the immense dome of the council chamber where the most powerful voices in the galaxy decided the fate of worlds. The air hummed with tension and electric energy, screens and holograms filled the air, displaying the image of one blue planet far away, Earth, the home of humanity, the species that had once begged for a seat in this very chamber but now stood accused of rebellion, disobedience, and arrogance beyond measure, the council. Speaker, a tall, thin being with silver eyes and skin like polished glass, raised his hand. The noise fell to silence instantly, his voice echoed through the chamber, cold and mechanical. "The motion before us is clear," he said. "The Terran Union has violated interstellar law, built fleets beyond the permitted limit, expanded colonies without approval, and refused to pay the galactic tax. Their actions threaten stability. Their defiance must be crushed." The chamber erupted into murmurs and flashes of color as delegates began shouting in a dozen languages. Some demanded mercy, others demanded destruction. The reptilian general slammed his clawed hand onto the table, his deep growl rumbling through the air. "They were warned," he hissed. "But humans only learn through pain. They must be reminded of their place." The insectoid queen clicked her mandibles, releasing a high-pitched tone that translated into, "They are dangerous. They breed too fast. They fight too fiercely. If we delay, they will consume us all." At the back of the chamber, a small group of human diplomats sat quietly, their faces calm, their eyes unblinking. They did not interrupt, they did not protest, they simply listened as the galaxy debated their extermination. The youngest among them clenched his fists, whispering, "They talk as if we're not even here." The older one beside him, gray-haired and calm, replied softly, "They've forgotten what we are capable of, let them speak." The council speaker turned toward the center podium, raising his hand once more. "It is decided," he declared, "by the authority of the Galactic Council, by the unity of the member species, and in defense of peace across the stars, we hereby declare total war upon the Terran Union of Earth." As his words echoed, the chamber erupted with light, every species broadcasting the declaration across the galaxy, entire worlds watching as the message spread, war against Earth. In the great cities of alien empires, people cheered, soldiers marched, and fleets prepared. They spoke of victory, of swift conquest, of putting humanity back in chains. Across thousands of light years, alien reporters described Earth as doomed. "The Terran Union cannot stand against the might of the galaxy," they said. "Their fleets are small, their worlds few, their courage meaningless." But while the galaxy celebrated its decision, Earth itself remained eerily silent. No emergency broadcasts were issued, no frantic evacuations, no desperate speeches. The streets of human cities continued as normal. Children went to school, factories worked, and night fell over calm oceans. Under the surface of that calm was something ancient and unshakable: resolve. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a fortress older than most colonies existed, a place no alien had ever seen. The Terran Defense Directorate Command Chamber, a sphere of black titanium buried 5 miles under the seafloor, protected by layers of shielding that could withstand a direct orbital strike. Inside, thousands of screens glowed softly, showing the positions of every known alien fleet, every ship movement, every encrypted transmission. The humans had seen the declaration hours before it was announced. They had known it was coming. They were already prepared. In the command chamber, an old admiral sat in silence, his uniform unadorned, his face scarred from a dozen wars, his eyes sharp as steel. Around him officers worked quietly, their hands moving across holographic panels, monitoring distant colonies, updating defensive grids. "Sir," one officer said softly, "the declaration is official. The council broadcast just reached the outer colonies." The admiral nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. "So, it begins," he said, his voice steady, calm, and almost bored. There was no fear in him, no surprise, only the weight of inevitability. The officer looked at him, confused. "Orders, sir." The admiral turned his gaze toward the main screen, where the holographic projection of the Milky Way glowed faintly, hundreds of red markers blinking around Sol, representing alien fleets already moving. "Stand by," he said. "Do not respond, do not retaliate, let them come, let them believe we are asleep." The officers exchanged glances, but none argued. They had served long enough to know that humanity never acted in panic, never fought without calculation. The admiral leaned back in his chair, remembering the last time Earth had faced extinction, centuries ago, during the first contact wars. Humanity had been weak then, fragmented, fighting among themselves, yet even then, they had survived, adapted, and rebuilt. Now, they were united, stronger than ever, and beneath the silence of their blue planet, the true power of mankind slept in the dark. In the outer colonies, miners on Mars paused to read the news, shrugging. War again, one muttered. Guess they forgot what happened last time. Engineers on Titan's refineries continued their work, smiling faintly. The Council can declare what they want, they won't like what they find. Across the stars, humanity remained calm, and that calm terrified the few who truly knew them. Because the galaxy had always misunderstood humanity's greatest weapon. It wasn't their technology, their armies, or their ships, it was their patience. In the halls of alien power, leaders mistook silence for fear. They didn't realize that humans didn't shout when they were angry, they planned. The Council's orders spread fast, massive fleets mobilizing from every corner of the galaxy, reptilian war cruisers, insectoid hive carriers, and crystalline dreadnoughts forming armadas so large that they blotted out starlight, each commander confident this would be easy. They remembered humanity's early weakness, their small fleets, their limited reach, but what they didn't know was that Earth's quiet years had not been wasted under the oceans, on the dark side of the moon, in the frozen voids of Neptune's orbit. Humanity had built things that even their allies didn't know existed, things not listed in treaties, not logged in registries, not seen by any alien eyes. As the alien fleets prepared, 1,000 human agents hidden in alien worlds began their silent work, intercepting transmissions, sabotaging fuel lines, feeding false data to enemy sensors. Everything had already been set in motion before the war was even declared. It was not arrogance that kept Earth quiet, it was control. Back in the council chamber, the speaker stood before the great display showing the Milky Way, a glowing blue circle marking Sol. He turned to the assembly. Within 72 hours, the Terran defenses will fall, and Earth will kneel, he said proudly. His words met with thunderous applause. No one noticed the faint static flickering across the display for a brief moment. No one realized that even now, a human satellite had quietly hacked the Council's transmission feed, watching, listening, learning. On the other side of the galaxy, the Terran Directorate received the entire broadcast live, including the secret fleet orders the Council believed were encrypted. They're sending the 4th Imperial Armada to the Alpha Gate, an officer reported. Just like we predicted. The Admiral smiled faintly. Perfect. He stood, straightening his uniform, and walked to the massive window overlooking the dark ocean beyond the glass. The lights of distant submarines glowed faintly below. We've always known they'd come, he said quietly. We just didn't think they'd be this predictable. On the surface, storms rolled across the Pacific, waves crashing against steel platforms, lightning flashing across the horizon. Above the clouds, invisible to any telescope, a formation of human warships drifted silently in orbit, their hulls dark as void, absorbing all light, their presence erased from all scanners. These ships were humanity's true response, silent, unseen, and already waiting. On every colony, the same orders echoed through encrypted channels. Do not engage, do not reveal, observe, record, and prepare. Humanity had learned long ago that wars are not won by shouting first, they are won by finishing last. The alien races laughed, confident in their power, but they had never fought a species that had crawled from extinction more than once. They had never fought minds that viewed every war as a lesson, every defeat as data, every loss as evolution. The Terran psyche was not built on conquest, it was built on survival, and in survival, humans were unmatched. In the Council's military command centers, strategists debated tactics. Some insisted on overwhelming force, others argued for negotiation. Perhaps they will surrender if we show strength, said one crystalline general. Humans are emotional, fragile, their unity will shatter under pressure. But a lone shadowy figure among them whispered, You do not understand them, I've studied them, they are not like us, they will not run, they will not plead, they will wait, and when they move, it will already be too late. His words were ignored, dismissed as paranoia. The fleets launched anyway. Billions watched as the galaxy's greatest armada set course for Sol, banners waving, engines burning bright. The declaration of war was complete, the pride of the Empire soaring high, but far below in the dark command room under Earth's oceans, humanity's oldest admiral simply smiled and closed his eyes, whispering to no one, Welcome to Earth's game. The galaxy thought it had declared war, but it had only opened the first page of humanity's long, silent revenge. Because when the stars threatened Earth, humanity didn't tremble, they didn't scream, they simply waited, and the universe would soon learn what it meant when humans didn't blink. While the galaxy believed Earth was weak, humanity was already years ahead in silence, unseen and unheard. The Terran Union had prepared for this very moment long before any alien dared to threaten them. Their calm after the declaration of war was not ignorance, it was calculation. Deep beneath the moon's surface, miles of hidden factories pulsed with quiet life, machines worked without rest, assembling warships that no alien radar could detect, every beam forged from compressed dark matter alloys, every system powered by cores reverse-engineered from alien technology yet improved tenfold. On Mars, hidden beneath layers of red dust, the largest planetary shield array in existence lay dormant. Disguised as a mining field, its operators waiting for one command, the same calm hum filled the undersea cities of Neptune, where Black Ops engineers worked in total silence, creating drones the size of asteroids, their metallic skins coated with adaptive camouflage, invisible even to the most advanced scanners. Humanity's preparations were not just defensive, they were surgical, calculated, precise. The Galactic Empire had no idea that for the past 50 years, Earth had infiltrated its own enemies. Their scientists had been studying alien data since the First Contact War, decoding every system, breaking every encryption, and quietly inserting Terran-made algorithms into alien computers. So when the Council declared war, Earth already knew every fleet movement, every code, every blind spot in the enemy's network. They didn't panic because they were already inside. The Terran Intelligence Directorate, hidden in a bunker beneath the Arctic ice, had mapped the galaxy's communication grid, each line of data recorded and analyzed by AI cores so advanced they could predict alien strategy weeks before it was made. Those AI, known only as the Silent Choir, monitored every broadcast, adjusting human readiness with mathematical precision. They didn't sleep, didn't argue, didn't doubt. Their logic was clear: patience wins wars, emotion loses them. Across the colonies, humanity's behavior remained strangely normal, trade continued, schools remained open, and civilian channels were calm. The aliens mistook this for weakness, believing humans were paralyzed by fear, but that quiet normalcy was itself the weapon, because nothing confused an enemy more than peace before a storm. Far beneath the sands of Earth's Sahara Desert, in a facility known only as Vault Sigma, stood the true marvel of humanity's preparation, the Quantum Command Nexus, a machine so powerful it could calculate 1 trillion battle outcomes in seconds. Guided by both machine logic and human intuition, its neural link connected directly to every major shipyard, every defense satellite, every colony relay, and every Terran warship hidden in the void. It was the mind of humanity's war machine, and it waited patiently. At its core, one operator watched the holographic model of the galaxy, his hands folded behind his back. The map shimmered with thousands of red dots representing enemy fleets. He whispered softly, "They move fast, but not faster than thought." Beside him, an Ari's voice replied, "Predicted arrival in Sol orbit, 72 hours, probability of enemy miscalculation, 98%. The man smiled faintly. "Good. Let them come." In orbit above Jupiter, human engineers monitored an ancient project long hidden from the galaxy's eyes, a series of massive black platforms the size of continents known as the Vaults, each containing dormant warships wrapped in stealth fields, their surfaces absorbing all energy signatures. These ships were not ordinary. They were the titans of the old Terran Navy, built during humanity's darkest hour, long before the Council forced disarmament treaties upon them. Every one of those ships carried enough firepower to level entire fleets, yet they remained silent, unseen, untouched, waiting for the moment when the stars would once again challenge humanity. The alien intelligence services had tried for decades to spy on Earth, sending probes cloaked in stealth, hiding agents among trade envoys, but none had ever returned. For every alien who looked at humanity's calm face, another vanished without trace, because the humans who smiled politely at the Council's accusations were not diplomats, they were hunters. In the deep alleys of alien trade stations, human operatives blended among the crowds, trading harmless goods while listening to conversations in every language, feeding those whispers into the silent choir, turning gossip into strategy. While the galaxy believed humans were still learning, humanity was already rewriting the game. In secret laboratories orbiting Pluto, the Terran Science Division tested new weapons, the kind the Council had outlawed centuries ago: energy spheres capable of folding light, gravitational mines that could collapse warships without explosion, and most terrifying of all, the Ghost Net, an invisible web spread across the void that could disable any ship crossing its line by corrupting its quantum drive. The aliens would never see it coming. They would think the void itself was turning against them. And yet, through all this, humanity spoke nothing, issued no threats, broadcast no propaganda. Their silence became a myth, a whisper in alien markets and military stations. "Why aren't the humans responding?" one alien captain asked. "Because they don't need to," replied another. "They think they've already won." On Earth, in the command chamber beneath the Pacific, the old admiral stood before the holographic map, watching red dots move closer to Sol. The younger officer spoke nervously. "Sir, the galactic fleets are forming at the Alpha Gate. They're deploying their dreadnoughts early." The admiral's voice was quiet, unhurried. "Let them. The longer they move, the more we learn." Another officer frowned. "Should we ready the orbital cannons?" The admiral turned, his expression calm. "Not yet. Patience wins wars, gentlemen. Panic loses them." His words echoed through the hall like scripture, and every officer returned to work with renewed focus. No shouting, no panic, only discipline. Because everyone in that room knew what humanity's silence meant. It meant the trap was already closing. In the dark corridors of the Directorate, messages moved quietly between branches, encrypted orders written in code words that even the AIS didn't fully interpret. The message was simple. Phase 1. Complete. Begin observation. Across Mars, lunar bases, and the icy moons, lights blinked as dormant systems came online, invisible to alien sensors. Entire networks awakening like sleeping giants stretching after centuries of rest. Energy flowed through forgotten tunnels, weapons hummed with power. And artificial intelligences long kept silent opened their eyes once more. Humanity was not reacting. They were awakening. Above Saturn, a Terran observation ship watched the stars through its black glass viewport. Its captain gazed at distant points of light that represented the approaching enemy, his voice calm. "They think they're hunters, but they're walking into the lion's den." Beside him, his officer smirked. "Let's hope they brought enough ships." The captain chuckled softly. "No number is enough." Across alien worlds, propaganda spread fast, holoscreens blaring with speeches. Alien leaders promised their people that humanity would fall within days. "They are isolated, disorganized, and technologically inferior," said one council official confidently, unaware that his very words were being monitored, decoded, and stored by Earth's listening posts orbiting a neutron star 2 galaxies away. Everything the council said, everything they planned, humanity already knew. The truth was simple. Earth had never stopped preparing. From the moment the first alien threatened them centuries ago, humanity had built, hidden, and evolved, not out of arrogance, but out of fear that one day, the stars would turn against them again, and when that day came, they swore they would never be unprepared. And now, that day had come. Yet, as the galaxy roared in pride, as fleets gathered and worlds armed themselves, Earth remained silent, its oceans calm, its skies clear, its people living their lives as if nothing had changed, and in that calm silence lay the most terrifying truth. The humans were not afraid, they were waiting, because they knew something the galaxy didn't. They knew that when the stars moved against them, the shadows they had built in secret would move faster. Humanity had become the quiet storm, invisible, patient, inevitable, and soon, the galaxy would learn that silence was not the absence of fear, it was the promise of retribution. The Galactic Armada entered the Sol system like a storm of light and arrogance, millions of alien ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls glinting under the faint glow of distant sunlight. It was the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history, stretching across the void like a wall of death. The aliens believed their sheer numbers would be enough to crush Earth within minutes. Every commander, every admiral, every soldier among them had been told that humanity would crumble the moment they saw the might of the Empire. They had been promised that the war would be over before the next rotation of their home stars. On the bridge of the lead dreadnought, the alien High Admiral Vaughn stood tall, his four eyes gleaming with pride as his voice echoed across the fleet. "Target Sol 3, the Terran homeworld. The Council demands obedience and the cleansing of their defiance. Fire upon their orbital platforms. Reduce their defenses to ash." His officers obeyed without hesitation, glowing runes across their consoles activating massive plasma cannons, and with one command, the sky over Earth's outer defenses erupted in waves of fiery energy, beams of power brighter than stars cutting across the dark void. The alien armada unleashed its fury. Their weapons screamed across the solar system, colliding with the outer stations around Mars, the belts of asteroids near Jupiter, and the dark orbital grids around Neptune. For a moment, the entire system seemed to burn. Explosions glittered like dying suns. Waves of energy rippling through the void, and alien commanders laughed, believing the humans had already been wiped out. "It is done," Vaughn said proudly, turning to his second-in-command. "Transmit to the Council, the Terran defenses have fallen, Earth is blind." But as the message sent, something unexpected happened. Their sensors began to distort, static filled the air, holographic projections flickered. One officer shouted, "Admiral, we're detecting nothing, the scanners aren't reading. Debris, no wreckage, no heat signatures, it's like the targets weren't even there." Confusion spread like fire across the fleet. They replayed the battle footage, watching the same thing over and over. every shot fired, every explosion, but no damage, no proof, no aftermath. Vaughn's brow furrowed. That's impossible, we saw them destroyed. Another officer's voice trembled. Sir, there were no impacts, our readings. They were illusions. Before Vaughn could respond, a ripple moved through space. Itself, subtle but immense, every ship's lights flickered as power drained for a split second. The fleet's AI cores began to desynchronize, and the crew felt something they had never known before: fear. Report, Vaughn barked, his voice sharp, but no one could answer. Their instruments glitched, alarms blared without reason, and in that eerie silence between systems shutting down and rebooting, something appeared in the distance, dark shapes, massive and still, like shadows carved into the void itself. No engines visible, no lights, no signals, only silence. The officers stared in disbelief as the shadows began to move, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. Identify those vessels, Vaughn demanded, but the scanners returned nothing, no readings, no life signs, no IFF codes. It was as if space itself was birthing ghosts, unknown signatures. Sir, an officer stammered. But they're massive. Vaughn narrowed his eyes, his voice lowering. That can't be human, they don't have ships that big. And yet as one of the shadows drifted closer, a faint insignia caught the starlight. A single silver symbol etched into black metal. The emblem of the Terran Union. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Empire, silence filled its mighty armada. The human fleet had arrived, emerging from stealth like a phantom storm, hundreds of colossal warships sliding out of the darkness, each larger than a dreadnought, each designed with angles that defied logic, their hulls absorbing all light, their movements smooth and silent. They carried no colors, no banners, no flashing lights, only purpose. Across the alien fleet, panic rippled, command shouted, weapons charged again, and Admiral Vaughn gave the order, all ships open fire. Destroy them before they engage. Thousands of plasma beams cut through space, missiles screamed, kinetic rounds tore across the void, every alien weapon unleashed at once. The dark ships vanished from sight just before impact. The alien crews cheered, believing they had struck them down. But then, in utter silence, the void shimmered once more, and the human ships reappeared, untouched, unharmed, and closer, impossibly close. They were inside the Empire's formation. Without sound, without warning, the first Terran warship fired, not plasma, not missiles, but something unseen, a pulse of invisible energy rippling through the void like a heartbeat. The alien dreadnought nearest to it flickered, its hull glowing white for a split second before it collapsed in on itself, vanishing into dust. No explosion, no wreckage, just absence. One after another, alien ships began to fail, their lights dying, their engines freezing, their weapons locking. Chaos erupted. Officers screamed, "We're under cyber attack. Our systems are unresponsive." But the truth was far worse. Their ships had already been taken. A voice, calm and cold, echoed across every alien comm channel, not from one source but from everywhere at once. Power restored, to us. The aliens froze, realizing the voice spoke their language perfectly, the voice of a human. You entered Sol without permission, you fired first, now you will learn silence. In that moment, every alien ship's engine shut down simultaneously, their gravity drives offline, their targeting systems corrupted. Every AI core rewritten in seconds. The fleet that once represented the pride of the Galactic Empire became a drifting graveyard of dark metal. The humans didn't fire again, they simply waited, their dark ships surrounding the crippled armada like wolves circling helpless prey. The human admiral on the command bridge of the Terran flagship, his face half-lit by the glow of screens, watched quietly, his voice steady. "Do not pursue, do not gloat, just observe." His officers nodded, their expressions calm. "Sir, the enemy fleet is disabled, total. Losses estimated at 40%. The admiral's eyes didn't waver. "Good, send the message." Across the alien networks, all channels flickered with static before a single transmission appeared on every screen in the galaxy. It was a black screen with only one phrase glowing in white letters: "Do not mistake our silence for fear." Panic spread through alien worlds, their leaders shouting in confusion, trying to contact their fleets, but there was only one reply from the Terran AI, calm, emotionless, final: "Connection denied." Back in the Sol system, the disabled alien ships drifted helplessly, their crews terrified, watching the human fleet hold formation without firing again. Not a single broadcast of victory, not a single word of anger, just perfect, disciplined silence, the kind that screamed louder than any weapon. In the council chambers, news of the first engagement arrived within hours, and when the speaker saw the report, his glowing eyes dimmed. How could this happen? He whispered, his advisors shouting theories, treachery, impossible technology, divine punishment. But none could explain it. All they knew was that the proud Galactic Armada, the fleet meant to end humanity in hours, had vanished in minutes, with no survivors willing to speak. For those who saw it and lived, the image of black Terran warships in the dark haunted their dreams forever, because the humans hadn't just defended, they had watched, calculated, and ended the battle before it truly began. And now the galaxy realized the truth. The species they had mocked as emotional, chaotic, and weak had become something else entirely, something terrifying in its calm, a predator that didn't roar before striking, and when the stars themselves burned against them, humanity did not blink, they simply erased the night. The void after battle was haunting, a black ocean filled with wrecks of alien ships drifting lifelessly, their lights gone, their weapons cold, and their comms dead. Silence stretched across the Sol system like a shroud. Even space itself seemed afraid to echo. The aftermath, the Galactic Armada, once a symbol of dominance, was now nothing but twisted fragments of arrogance, and among that silence, the human fleet moved like shadows reborn, every Terran warship gliding through the remains without sound or light, their matte black hulls absorbing the faint reflections of distant stars. Not a single transmission, not a single word. The universe had never seen a species fight this way. Because to the rest of the galaxy, war was chaos and noise, but to humans, war was art, an act of patience and precision, a symphony of silence. On the bridge of the Terran flagship TSV Eternity, the Admiral stood still, his face calm, his eyes sharp as he studied the holodisplay before him. The AI spoke softly in the background. Enemy fleet immobilized, all power systems corrupted, command chains broken, estimated survival, 12%. The Admiral nodded slowly, and their reinforcements still assembling beyond the Alpha Gate, unaware of their loss. The AI replied, "They are blind, Admiral." The old man's lips curved slightly, not in pride but in quiet understanding. "Maintain silence, let the galaxy think we mourn, let them believe they struck us." His tone carried no hatred, no thrill, only the steady calm of a man who had waited a lifetime for this moment. The alien survivors floated helplessly within their crippled vessels, trying to send distress signals, but every frequency returned static, their screens flickered, systems rebooted only to shut down again, and then it happened. A voice echoed through every comm channel, low, cold, and perfectly clear. "Power restored, to us." The sound alone froze their blood. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't taunting, it was a whisper of ownership, of control. And before they could react, every ship's console flashed a Terran emblem, the white and blue symbol of Earth's directorate spinning slowly. One alien captain screamed, "They've taken our ships. They've taken everything." And as if responding to his fear, the human fleet finally moved, their engines igniting like brief flashes of blue lightning. But they didn't open fire. They dismantled, disabling remaining engines, neutralizing reactors with surgical accuracy, erasing every last threat without waste or emotion. To the humans, victory wasn't destruction, it was control. In orbit around Mars, massive relay stations activated, sending encrypted bursts of data across every human colony, silent and invisible to alien sensors, confirming the success of Operation Ghostlight, a plan designed decades ago for this very war. Phase 2 complete. One operator said quietly, his voice filled with awe, "We did it without losing a single ship." His superior turned, her tone calm. "Do not celebrate. We haven't won. We've only reminded them who we are." Across the galaxy, the news of the battle began to spread, distorted and uncertain. The Council's military networks tried to censor it, but fragments of data leaked through, half-transmissions showing human ships dissolving entire dreadnoughts in silence. The footage was grainy, terrifying, enough to shake even the most loyal soldiers. The galactic public demanded answers. How did this happen? Where is the Armada? Why is there no communication? Panic began to bloom, and the silence from Earth only made it worse. Because no one could tell if humanity was finished or preparing something far greater, the unknown became a weapon sharper than any blade. Meanwhile, on Earth, the city still glowed softly under the night sky. People walked the streets unaware that their planet had just survived the largest assault in recorded history. The world governments made no announcements, there were no broadcasts, no parades, just quiet work in the shadows. In the Pacific Command Chamber, the Admiral received a report. "Sir, alien survivors attempting to surrender." He didn't look up. "Are they transmitting publicly?" "Negative, private channels only. They're afraid the Council will execute them if they admit defeat." The Admiral nodded. "Maintain silence, no response, no mercy, no hostility. They must sit in their own fear." His voice was cold, emotionless, and yet behind that calmness was something deeper. Strategy. He knew the greatest psychological weapon was uncertainty, to make the enemy question not just your strength, but your nature. On one of the drifting alien ships, the crew huddled in the dark, the emergency lights flickering dimly. The captain, his once golden uniform stained with soot, stared at the black silhouettes of human warships circling like silent predators. "Why aren't they finishing us?" he whispered. His communications officer trembled. "Maybe they're studying us." Another voice from the crew spoke in fear. "Maybe they already have." Outside their viewport, one of the Terran ships turned slowly, and for a moment, the alien crew could see their own reflection on the human hull, small, terrified, and powerless. Then the ship vanished again into the void, disappearing as if it had never been there at all. Back in the council chamber, chaos ruled. The speaker slammed his hand onto the podium. "I demand an explanation," he roared. "An entire armada does not vanish into silence." Scientists and strategists shouted over one another, some claiming black magic, others insisting it was advanced technology, none willing to accept the simplest truth, that they had underestimated the very species they had condemned. One old alien scholar stood at the edge of the room, his voice trembling but firm. "You called them emotional and reckless. But tell me, what emotion drives a species to build weapons that erase entire fleets without a word? What rage hides behind that silence?" The room fell into heavy stillness. No one dared to answer. On the edge of the Sol system, the remnants of the Galactic fleet floated among the debris of their pride, and then, as if the void itself grew tired of their suffering, the human ships turned away. Slowly vanishing one by one, fading into darkness, leaving only the dead behind, no message, no farewell, just the eternal echo of quiet victory. Hours later, alien recovery vessels arrived, finding no sign of human aggression, only precision, as if the entire battle had been a demonstration rather than a war. The data logs from the surviving ships revealed something chilling. Each system had been hijacked not by force, but by invitation. The humans had entered through a command hidden within. The Empire's own code, a backdoor written decades ago into their AI architecture, meaning humanity had been inside their systems from the very beginning, watching, waiting, preparing. The Council finally understood. This wasn't a war humanity wanted, it was a lesson they delivered. And yet, even as the galaxy trembled, Earth remained quiet, its broadcasts unchanged, its people unshaken, its fleet unseen. Because for humans, there was no need to announce power to those who already feared it, and so the silence continued, deep and endless, spreading across the stars like a shadow that could not be outrun. In that silence, alien empires began to crumble from within, their leaders turning on each other, desperate to understand how one small world had brought them all to their knees. And through it all, humanity said nothing, no threats, no demands, only quiet observation, because they knew that fear does not need to shout, it only needs to wait. Fear traveled faster than light, faster than truth, faster than reason, and in the days after the silence from Sol, that fear spread through the stars like a living thing, whispering through every world and every system that had ever looked down on Earth. The mighty galactic empire that once ruled with arrogance now found its fleets shattered, its admirals missing, and its pride dissolving into panic. On the capital world of Veltor, the council chamber that had once thundered with authority now echoed with confusion. Half the seats were empty, the other half filled with frightened representatives arguing over what to do. The speaker slammed his hands against the table, his crystal palms cracking from the force. "We cannot allow panic to spread," he shouted. But the delegates didn't listen, their translators. Screaming in a dozen different tongues, reptilian generals hissed that humanity had discovered forbidden technology. Insectoid queens accused the silicon-bodied species of betrayal, and the crystalline thinkers accused the council of lying. The chamber that had once ruled the galaxy had turned into a hive of chaos and terror. "We should surrender," one voice said, trembling, an amphibious minister with translucent skin. His words caused a wave of outrage. "Surrender? To them. They are primitives." Another spat. "They have no right to challenge the Empire." But no one could ignore the reports. Their greatest armada had vanished without resistance, not even destroyed, just erased, and now systems were going dark, their communications silenced by invisible interference, their fleets unable to launch, their AI networks infected with something no one could purge. On the far side of the galaxy, traders whispered rumors across marketplaces and smuggler dens. "They say Earth didn't even fight," one murmured, his voice low. "They say they just turned everything off," another replied. "I heard their ships don't use engines, they move through shadows," and in every corner of space, those whispers grew until they became the new reality. Humans were no longer just a species, they were a myth, the ghost that haunted the stars. Military academies on alien worlds shut down their training simulations because every scenario that involved Terrans ended the same way. Failure, students protested, calling it superstition, but their instructors, who had seen the footage, simply said, "You don't understand, they fight in silence, they kill with patience." In the private chambers of the council, a secret meeting was held among the surviving elite, 10 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Their forms glowing beneath the cold light of the dying star that their city orbited. The speaker's voice trembled for the first time. How can they possess such power? The treaties forbid the development of war as, the insectoid queen hissed softly, maybe they never obeyed your treaties. One of the crystalline elders leaned forward, his voice a soft hum. We thought them emotional creatures, driven by pride and chaos, but this is precision, this is intelligence without mercy. It is impossible, the speaker growled. They were monitored for centuries. The elder turned his head slowly, his eyes dim. Then you monitored what they wanted you to see. The room fell into heavy silence, because deep down, they all knew he was right. Across the Empire, civilians panicked, fleeing from border worlds near human space, entire colonies abandoned, ships packed with refugees moving toward the galactic core, afraid of an invasion that hadn't even been threatened. Because humanity didn't need to announce their victory, their silence was enough to make the universe believe they were already coming. Propaganda networks tried to calm the chaos, showing old footage of humans smiling in council meetings, laughing, trading, living peacefully, but it only made things worse, because now that laughter felt like mockery, the peace they once believed in now looked like a mask. The galaxy began to see humanity differently, not as a small species climbing upward, but as something that had been watching them all along, waiting for a reason to move. On one border world near the Orion Arm, an alien patrol officer sat in his observation post watching the void through his cracked viewport. He had heard the rumors, everyone had, but when he looked out at the stars, he realized the void looked different, darker somehow, as if light itself was being swallowed by something unseen. He blinked, and for a moment, he saw movement, a shape too large, too silent, drifting across the edge of his sensor range. "Command, I think I see," he began, but the signal died before he could finish. The transmission never reached his superior. The station was later found empty, its systems shut down, its power untouched, its logs wiped clean. The only thing that remained was a single line written in the logbook by hand: "They are here." On the great news networks of the galaxy, analysts argued endlessly, trying to explain what happened. Some claimed Earth had discovered the lost technologies of the precursors. Others said they had merged with their machines, becoming something beyond flesh. The truth didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the fear, and fear became faith. The kind that turned even the proudest species into believers. Priests and prophets rose on alien worlds preaching that humanity was divine judgment, sent to punish arrogance. In temples and markets, murals appeared of a glowing blue planet surrounded by halos of fire, and in the streets, the words "Do not anger the Terrans" became a common saying, used by parents to silence children. Back on Earth, in the command centers buried deep beneath the ocean, humanity watched the galaxy unravel from behind calm screens. The old admiral sat in the dark, listening to reports. "Sir, Veltor fleets have withdrawn from human space, their outer colonies are in panic, and the council is fractured," one officer said. The admiral nodded slowly. "And the broadcasts?" "Still spreading, sir, our silence speaks louder than their lies." The admiral leaned forward, resting his hand against the cold metal table. "Good, let the silence do the talking," he whispered. "We won't need to fire another shot." To him, war was not about destruction, it was about control, and humanity now controlled something greater than any weapon: fear itself. On Mars, scientists gathered around the holographic display of alien transmissions, analyzing every word, every reaction. They laughed quietly. "They think we're gods," one of them said. "Let them," replied another. "It'll keep them from coming back." In hidden spaceports on the edge of known territory, human captains traded quietly with alien merchants, selling nothing of value, only words and warnings. "You don't want to test Earth again," one said with a calm smile. The alien merchant's hands trembled as he nodded quickly. "No, never again, I swear." And as the human left, the alien whispered to himself. They didn't even blink. In the following days, the Galactic Council ordered every world to increase military patrols, to prepare for invasion. But the human fleets never came. The skies remained empty, and that was worse, because the waiting killed more than the war ever could. Every empire began turning inward, accusing its neighbors of betrayal, hunting spies that weren't there, burning alliances that once kept them united, and while they tore themselves apart, humanity simply watched, invisible, patient, and unmoved. The galaxy had declared war on Earth, but humanity had declared something far more powerful: silence, the kind that echoed louder than thunder, the kind that crushed hearts, the kind that made every empire question its own strength. And in that silence, the stars began to fear the one truth that none dared to speak aloud. Humanity had never been the underdogs of the universe, they had simply been the ones who waited the longest. The galaxy held its breath, and in that breath, Humanity spoke at last, not through fleets, not through weapons, but through a single voice that reached across every world. It began as a faint transmission, detected by listening posts on the edge of the Orion Arm. No source, no coordinates, only a signal wrapped in ancient encryption that every species instantly recognized. The human code, when the message unfolded, it didn't begin with threats or demands, it began with a quiet hum, the sound of wind and waves, and then a voice, clear and calm, the voice of a woman speaking perfect galactic standard. We are not conquerors, we are not slaves, we are humans, and we will not kneel to fear. Her tone was gentle, but the words carried a weight that no weapon could match. The transmission cut through every jammer, every firewall, every network, appearing on screens from the frozen moons of Thalos to the burning cities of Veltor. Billions stopped what they were doing to listen. On alien streets, workers dropped their tools. Soldiers froze mid-step, and leaders stared in disbelief as the message continued. You declared war on us, she said. You wanted our fear, our surrender, but we have nothing to give you except truth. Behind her voice came faint sounds, children laughing, waves crashing, the simple, peaceful noise of a world alive. You saw our silence and mistook it for weakness, she said. But silence is not fear, it is the sound of patience, and patience is the weapon of those who survive. On every world, the message was identical, and yet it felt personal. It reached every species in their own tongue, the tone perfect, the emotion balanced between calm and warning. On the screens, the image flickered for a moment before showing the speaker, a human woman standing in a small classroom. Sunlight pouring through the windows behind her, she looked ordinary. Short brown hair, eyes bright but tired. Behind her, children sat at desks, drawing pictures of stars and ships, and the Terran flag hung on the wall. Her presence wasn't that of a politician or soldier, it was something deeper, something terrifyingly human. We do not seek to rule, she said. We build, we learn, we endure, because that is what we are. You have forgotten what survival looks like, but we have not. The camera turned slightly, showing a boy raising his hand. Teacher, are they listening right now? He asked. The woman smiled faintly. Yes, they are. She said softly, the whole galaxy is listening, and then she looked directly at the camera, her expression neither angry nor proud, but impossibly steady. We will not invade your worlds, we will not destroy your fleets, but if you ever come for us again, if you threaten our home, our people, our children, there will be no second silence. The words hit like gravity, slow and unstoppable. The transmission ended not with an explosion, not with music or triumph, but with quiet, the sound of the classroom fading into nothing. The message left no signature, no trace, no way to track it. It had simply appeared everywhere and then vanished, yet it kept playing on repeat across countless worlds, broadcasted by alien networks who couldn't turn it off. Their systems hijacked by human AI long before the message even began. The Council demanded its removal, but every attempt failed, the code rewritten itself faster than any firewall could respond. The words of that woman etched themselves into the memory of an entire galaxy, an unending reminder that humanity's silence was not emptiness, it was power. On Earth, in the depths of the Pacific Command Chamber, the Admiral stood watching the broadcast from a distance, his hands clasped behind his back, the other officers silent. She delivered it perfectly, one of them said softly. The Admiral nodded once. Because it was never a threat, he murmured. It was a mirror. His word hung in the air, and for a moment, even the AI paused its endless processing, as if to honor the moment. Outside, deep beneath the waves, Earth's defense platforms glowed faintly, like eyes in the dark, watching but not moving. The Admiral turned to the room. Let them think they understand us, he said quietly. The more they try to predict us, the less they'll see what's coming. On alien worlds, the reaction was chaos. Some cheered in awe, others screamed in fear. Religious sects declared the woman a prophet, poets called her the voice of reason, while generals called her a warning from hell. The council banned the message publicly but studied it secretly. Their analysts replayed every word, trying to detect emotional manipulation, but they couldn't explain how her tone reached so deeply into the hearts of every species, because humans didn't speak to logic. They spoke to the soul, and even the oldest civilizations, those that had forgotten emotion centuries ago, felt something stir within them they hadn't known in ages: respect. On Veltor, the speaker sat in his darkened office, his glowing eyes fixed on the screen replaying the message. He leaned forward slowly, whispering to himself. They don't need fleets, they don't need armies, they just need to speak. His advisor approached, hesitant. Sir, should we issue a counter-broadcast? The speaker shook his head slowly. No, no one would listen. Their silence is louder than our words. He looked out the window at the great city below, thousands of ships grounded, billions whispering the same question. What happens if they come? Meanwhile, in the void between stars, the remains of the first alien armada drifted endlessly, its dark hulls still carrying faint signals, and deep within those wrecks, a new transmission began to echo through dead systems, a single sentence written into the code, one the humans had left behind as a final message. You wanted to know our strength, now you have seen our restraint. The surviving alien soldiers who read it wept, not out of pain, but out of realization, because it meant the humans could have destroyed them completely, and chose not to. Back on Earth, the teacher whose message had changed the galaxy stood outside her small classroom, watching the children play beneath the blue sky. She closed her eyes, listening to their laughter. Her communicator blinked once, displaying a short encrypted message. Transmission success confirmed, global impact, immeasurable. She smiled faintly, whispering to herself, "Good, now maybe they'll leave us alone." But in the back of her mind, she knew they wouldn't. She knew fear was a dangerous thing. It never stayed quiet for long. Across the stars, alien empires began holding emergency meetings not to plan attacks, but to sign treaties of neutrality. Worlds that had never agreed on anything before suddenly sought peace with one another, all because of one message, one human voice, one moment of calm truth that turned the most advanced civilizations into trembling children before the unknown, and through it all, humanity said nothing else. They didn't clarify, didn't repeat, didn't explain, because they didn't need to. Their message had already done what no weapon could, reshaped the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be human. The broadcast faded, but its echo lived on, and from that day forward, every time the stars grew silent, the galaxy remembered Earth's message, the voice that promised peace, but warned of extinction, the voice that didn't demand submission but commanded respect. And as the weeks passed, as the galaxies turned and new stars were born, one truth remained carved into the hearts of all who had heard it. When humanity speaks, the universe listens. And when humanity is silent, the universe trembles. The galaxy thought the storm had passed, but humanity had only gone quiet again, and when humans went silent, something always followed. The Council tried to rebuild its broken fleets. Billions of credits poured into the construction of new dreadnoughts, new warships, new weapons. But deep down, everyone knew they were building monuments to fear, not defense. Every ship launched into space was haunted by the memory of the first armada, and still no one dared to cross into Terran space. Again, they called it the dead zone, not because of radiation or mines, but because every probe that entered never came back, every signal that crossed the sol perimeter vanished without a trace. The galaxy had learned to stay away, but pride is a disease that no empire can cure, and soon whispers spread through the upper ranks of the Council's military, whispers of vengeance, of restoring glory, of proving to the galaxy that humanity's victory had been a trick of chance, a technological fluke. And so they gathered their strength in secret, in the dark corners of the Orion Rift. Hidden shipyards forged a new fleet, not of pride but desperation, a fleet armed with weapons banned since the dawn of the Council, antimatter warheads, singularity torpedoes, and quantum imploders capable of collapsing stars. The project was called Eclipse, and it was meant to erase Earth itself from existence. The galaxy's greatest in hiding behind the name of hope. Only a handful of leaders knew of it. They swore secrecy, fearing even to speak of it aloud, and when the fleet was finally ready, they launched it without fanfare, without warning, a silent armada slipping through the void, its purpose simple: finish what the first invasion started, burn Earth and erase humanity forever. But as the fleet reached the outer edges of Sol, their senses began to fail, not abruptly, but slowly, like a fog creeping over their instruments. First the stars disappeared, then the navigation markers, then the entire view beyond their hulls turned dark. The admirals barked orders: compensate the scanners, realign the gravimetric systems. But nothing worked. The more they tried, the deeper the darkness grew, until the only light remaining was their own engines, glowing like dying embers in a sea of black. Where are we? One officer whispered, panic rising, but no one answered, because no one knew. And then, out of that endless black, a shape appeared, vast and impossible, not a ship, not a planet, but something that dwarfed them all. It moved without light, without sound, without explanation. Its outline stretching across the stars like a living eclipse. Contact. Unknown mass detected. Someone screamed, but the readings made no sense. The numbers spiraled beyond comprehension. It was too big, too close, and yet it gave off no heat, no radiation. It simply existed, and then it spoke. A voice filled every ship, every mind, every system, calm, deep, and human. You built this fleet in secret, thinking we would not see, it said. You armed yourselves with forbidden weapons, thinking we would not know, but the void has no secrets from those who dwell within it. The crews froze, their hearts pounding, because the voice wasn't transmitted through radio or comms. It was inside their heads, speaking directly to their thoughts. Who are you? An admiral stammered, his voice trembling. We are the silence you feared, the voice replied, and suddenly, every screen lit up with an image, a colossal human warship emerging from the dark. Its hull blacker than night, its structure too massive to measure, its form bending light and time around it. Engraved on its side was a single word, Titan, the first of its kind, a ship so ancient it was believed to be a myth even among humans, a relic of the pre-Council era, when Earth had prepared for extinction. It had never been decommissioned, only hidden, waiting in the void beyond Pluto for the day it was needed, and that day had come. The alien fleet opened fire instantly, unleashing everything: antimatter torpedoes, singularity missiles, planet breaker cannons. The entire void lit up like 1,000 suns, and when the light faded, the Titan remained, untouched, its hull gleaming faintly, as if the universe itself refused to harm it. Then it responded, not with beams or missiles, but with a single pulse of energy, invisible, unstoppable. It passed through the alien fleet like wind through grass, and one by one, their ships vanished, not destroyed, not broken, simply erased from existence, like they had never been there. In the silence that followed, the few remaining alien officers screamed in terror, "What are you?" But the Titan's voice answered only once more, the reminder, and then the fleet was gone. The void reclaimed its silence, and where the Armada once floated, there was nothing left, not debris, not energy, not even a whisper. News of the event spread in fragments, distorted signals picked up by distant probes, one transmission repeated across multiple sectors. Something erased them, the entire fleet, and soon, fear once again consumed the galaxy, but this time, it was absolute. No one doubted anymore, no one speculated, because now they knew humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons or their armies, it was in their restraint. They could have burned the galaxy long ago, but they hadn't, and that made them the most dangerous of all. On Veltor, the speaker resigned, his final words recorded in the archives. We are not at war with humanity, we are surviving at their mercy. Back on Earth, deep in the Pacific Command Center, the Admiral stood before the glowing hologram of the Titan, watching its slow return through the solar system. The AI spoke softly, Titan's mission complete, no traces left. The Admiral nodded. Good, deactivate it again, let it sleep. The AI paused. For how long? The Admiral looked out at the black ocean beyond the glass, his reflection faint in the dim light. Until the galaxy forgets its fear, he said, and starts to remember its arrogance. Because he knew it was only a matter of time before history repeated itself. Arrogance always came back, and humanity would always be there, waiting in the dark, ready to remind the stars once more why they should never have declared war on Earth. And somewhere far above, beyond the clouds and stars, the Titan drifted back into the shadows, the last guardian of a species that didn't seek to rule, but to endure. Silent, eternal, untouchable, humanity's retribution had come and gone like a whisper through eternity, and in that silence, the universe learned once again. The most terrifying sound in creation was the sound of humanity saying nothing at all.